Hi everyone, Kate Smith here, and this is your third installment of State of Abortion. Today we have another incredible guest. You know her iconic pink sneakers. Welcoming to the program now is former state representative from Texas, Wendy Davis. Wendy, thank you so much for being here.
Hello, Kate. It's great to be with you.
So Wendy, so many people know you from your 13-hour-long filibuster. Can you give us a deep dive into what you were filibustering and why?
Sure. So in the Texas Senate, we're provided an opportunity to filibuster a bill when we're in the final day of a session or a couple of days of a session. We have to talk for the entire time. And if the bill hasn't yet been voted on by midnight, then of course it fails to pass. And on the last day of a special session in the Texas legislature, a bill came forward in the Texas Senate over from the Texas House that was a targeted regulation of abortion providers. So not only were we facing the closure of almost every one of the abortion clinics in Texas, but also a change in the way that care could be provided, even at the ones that would have remained open.
You mentioned a lot of different things about the Texas state legislature, and it reminds me about how complicated it is to follow all of the different state capitals all over the country, but then also how important it is for reproductive rights. So for a layperson, how do you recommend someone kind of follow state politics and look at everything that's going on in those state capitals?
You're so right, Kate, that what happens in our state legislatures has really a greater impact than what happens at the federal level. What I would suggest is a couple of things. Number one, find out who your state rep and your state senator are. Sign up then for that person's newsletters, because almost every elected official does have a newsletter. And then find local news sources or statewide news sources that can help you figure that out.
I'm curious, for people who want to get more involved in state politics, what are some entry points that they can find?
Finding an entity, whether it's an elected official that you care about and believe in, whether it's an organization that you care about and believe in, get involved there. That's the wonderful thing about state and local politics. You have the ability to show up in committee hearings, to testify about things that are happening, and to honestly have your voice heard in a way that's very different than what you can do at the national level. But before you can do that, you have to know what's happening.
What tips do you have for people who'd like to go to that committee hearing but are really intimidated?
Yes. Let's face it, that when you show up in these settings, they are purposefully engineered so that you're going to feel intimidated. It's almost always the case. So number one, just being aware of that. And then secondly, bringing forward with honesty and authenticity a personal story that helps the people who are in decision-making roles to understand why an issue matters so much to you. Personal narratives really shape the perspectives of decision makers. And I certainly had that experience in the state Senate so many times in committee hearings where I wasn't really personally ingrained in understanding on a particular issue, but someone would come and share a personal story that made it real for me. And it really could influence the way that I thought about something and the way that I voted on something.
Wendy, for people who are too intimidated to speak at a committee hearing, is there another way that it can impactfully reach their representative or state senator?
Sure. I mean, there are certainly other productive, proactive ways that you can communicate with the people who serve you. So first of all, go to your district office of that local elected person. Every state representative, every state senator has a local district office. See if you can meet with a member of their staff and talk to them. Number two, write an email or make a phone call.
Now, are these voicemails and emails, are they tracked? Like when you were, in office, did you get a number of how many people would call you on specific issues?
Absolutely. And, I'm so glad you asked that, Kate, because I think a lot of times when we're making those calls or we're sending those emails, we think that they're kind of going into the, atmosphere and no one's really paying attention to them. But every person, state rep, state senator, and at the local level, they have someone who works for them who is tracking everything that comes in the door. And they know, and they get a report on, this particular issue. We had 100 people call who were of this perspective, and we had 1,001 people call who were of this perspective. And it helps them to understand the accountability that they're going to be held to, that their constituents are watching them, and that even if they're going to vote in a way that's different than the majority of people who communicated with them, they've been put on notice that they're being watched and they're going to be held accountable.
In the piece of legislation that you filibustered back in 2013, how many people reached out to you for that?
It was remarkable, Kate. As the day went on, we received over 16,000 stories from people who reached out to my office to share why this particular issue mattered so very much to them. And it really made it real. And it might not have mattered for the Republican lawmakers who were dead set on what it was that they were going to do that day. But it raised awareness of people in the state. It raised awareness of people around the country. And I think it's such an important reminder of why our personal stories matter so much. I may think that I have a particular perspective on an issue, but then my mind can be changed if someone says, well, I know that sounds good in the abstract, but let me tell you what that means in reality. And what these personal stories do is to remind us that no matter the situation, lawmakers cannot adequately anticipate every particular circumstance and legislate for that circumstance. And it speaks to why these decisions belong to us, our doctors, our faith, our families, and not to a lawmaker to be sitting in our family home making a decision for us about our medical care and our choices about our own bodies.
Absolutely. Wendy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so very much, Kate.